need to choose what type of design you're going to specialize in. As a small firm, we can really only do one or two things very well. And so we've been very fortunate to figure out what those one or two things are, and we've been able to invest in time and efforts and everything into them.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Yeah. But then, Josh, this niche that you find, right, is it takes a lot of responsibility, right? Because dealing with the schools, with the kids, and everything. So, how
Yeah.
you guys took this specialize in that niche that is it takes a lot of responsibility, especially because there are kids around the facilities, right?
Well, yeah, I think like any project, you have a certain responsibility. If it's a single family house, obviously you want it to be safe and comfortable. If you want it to be, if you are designing skyscrapers, obviously there's a lot of responsibility there with the city and thousands and tens of thousands of people that will use those buildings. So across the board, there's responsibility in the architectural field, which is actually another aspect that makes it different from art. There is a lot more civic and safety responsibility. So I think going back to the specialization, that's what's helped us. We can understand all of the responsibilities that we have better because we work with the same types of clients, every year, and we're able to understand them better over time.
So, what message do you have for every architect out there that they are scared or they have fear to build his own business as architecture?
Sure. Well, I think my advice, which will be part of my 5 points to a million later, is that you need to choose what type of design you're going to specialize in. As a small firm, we can really only do one or two things very well. And so we've been very fortunate to figure out what those one or two things are, and we've been able to invest in time and efforts and everything into them. So again, find the one or two things that you're going to focus on and just really try to do well in those one or two things.
And then, Josh, which one is your favorite architect?
Oh, there's a British architect. His name is Norman Foster.
Yeah. I know. The building is very close to to our
Yes.
office, to where our office used to be. Yeah, the Gherkin. Yeah.
Yep. The Gherkin and many other buildings in London and around the world. I think his buildings, he's been around long enough. I believe he's in his 80s. So he's been
Yeah.
around long enough that he has buildings all over the world, and they just have a certain monumental aspect that I really enjoy.
What is the biggest challenge in your business and how you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, you know, I would say because we do try to innovate and create new things. So, for example, the Engage software,
The software, yeah.
part of the challenge is whether to create something that is only used by your clients or to try to create something that has broader appeal. And creating something with broad appeal is, you go through the typical startup questions about finding product market fit, getting it made, the cost, marketing, competitors, all of those kinds of things. But we're doing it in the context of a internal project. So I would say the challenges are deciding how to go about those things, investing in those things, and really taking the risk. I think a lot of people don't necessarily take the risk, even though they see the need for something, they don't take the risk and try to fix it. But we are. And so that's a it's a challenging and sometimes expensive
But it's a
venture,
good
but
challenge, yeah.
doing our best.
But then, Josh, the at the beginning, tell us a little bit at the beginning, because at the beginning, you guys, you are alone there, or maybe you have a couple of people working with you. So
Yeah.
how difficult was to find this first client and to find these people, the first client actually give you uh, like a lifeline that you said, okay, you know what,
Sure.
we have something and people are paying us for our service, so let's do more of
Yeah.
this. So how you find the first client? Because at the beginning, nobody, you're really small, nobody really knows you.
Right.
With no credibility, it's difficult to find this first client. So how you did that?
Yeah. So in our case, I had worked for some other architecture firms, much larger corporate architecture firms, and I had worked on these similar types of projects, but as an employee.
So you did
And
have
so,
experience, right? You knew
right.
what you
So
were
I
doing.
did have experience, and I would say that's going to be required in any industry that's specialized like architecture. So it could be marketing or anything like that. But I had that experience with a larger firm. I had the experience with the clients in the project, also experience with other project managers. And so basically, when I decided to try and start my own thing, I was able to retain those connections and use that experience to then get our first client. Um, so it was not a starting from scratch type of thing. I was able to just move it over. And honestly, that was really helpful because without that, I don't see how it would be. I don't see
Credibility
how
is
it
very
would be
important.
very smooth.
Yes,
You would be very stressed to find your first client.
without credibility. Yeah. So then, Josh, tell us what are the 5 steps to make the first million.
Well, I would say the first is to take the leap to starting your own thing. A lot of times you can think about it for years and years, but it never really comes and you're always waiting for the right time. For the right time, I would say that you need some type of investor. And that doesn't necessarily mean a venture capitalist or somebody like that. It can be a spouse who is willing to, work while you start your own thing. It could be a family member or parents even. It could be an existing client who is willing to take a chance on you and in a way invests in your future. So I would say that's number one is to don't be afraid to take a leap. Number two, find somebody to invest in you. And again, client, spouse, parent, friend, somebody like that. Um, three, I would say you need to find good partners. So even if you're creating a piece of software, you're going to need partners for marketing or engineering or any of the things that need to be done. If you're in the professional services business like architecture, you need partners who do other aspects of the project that you're not very good at. Um, or I would say once you have those partners and you start doing work, you need to pay attention to the opportunities. So just like you've chosen your kind of niche of what you're going to focus on, pay attention to all of the things that happen in that niche because there's a lot of things that other people skip over. And those are where you can create a successful business. Um, it doesn't even matter necessarily how big the your niche is. If you can control many parts of it, you can control a lot of it. Right? I'd say that's four. And then number five is to don't be afraid to charge enough. So if that is a software business, make sure your pricing is accurate. If it's a service business, don't be afraid to charge what you deserve to be charging. Um, the stereotype is that people go in and they charge, a few dollars or, they charge half of what they should actually be charging and they leave money on the table. The reality is, if you do a good job, if you have the right niche, and if you are, one of the only people that can provide that need, you do have a lot of flexibility to charge what you need to charge. So I guess that would be number five.
So, what do you think, George? How important is personal development in the life of the entrepreneur? I think that when you started your business at the beginning, it's a very lonely journey, right? You didn't really have one thing. Is just you were an employee, but completely different ball game is for you to decide to have your own firm and to have your own employees and to have
Sure.
the responsibility, right? So, what have you? How important do you think that your own personal development to keep yourself? I find you very good energy, smiling, very calm, right? No, like
Mm.
usually, some entrepreneurs in the startup they are a little bit like very stressed and they don't have time and all these things, right?
Yeah.
So do you do something in particular? Do you meditate? Do you go to the gym? You go to work? You take a lot of holidays? What do you do to keep you calm? To keep you focused to fulfill the responsibility that you have? Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for everybody. You're responsible for your client. You're responsible for the kids on the school. You're responsible for everything you do. So it's a lot of
Yeah.
responsibility. So how you manage all the pressure?
Yeah. I would say there's a couple things. Um, I'm fortunate to live in a place that I really enjoy. I live in Chicago. I really do like living here. There's
I bet the architecture is amazing of you where you live. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The architecture is really nice. There are many things to do outside. Exercise, sports, shows, that kind of thing. So just I would say in general, your environment makes a huge difference. And after moving here some years ago, I have noticed a real improvement.
I
So I
agree
think that's
100%.
one. I would say two is you need to find a community within your environment. So, for example, Chicago has a large architecture community. There's events every month. Uh, there's things that happen like you can join a pickup soccer game or football game. Um, I'm part of a faith community, that I go to on Saturdays. So being part of that faith community is very important. People that I exercise with. So I think the environment and your community can solve a lot because you're never going to find, like, no one thing is going to fix everything. It's unfair to put that much pressure on the one thing. So, if you're married, putting all your pressure on your spouse is unfair. If you're single, putting all your pressure on just your friend is unfair. You have to find ways to have your needs, your different type of needs, be solved by the actual groups of people that can solve those individual needs. So I would say spreading out and kind of having different things for different purposes has been really helpful. And having all that be within the right environment is really helpful.
Okay, Joe. So, is somebody from our audience from Chicago, from US, out there listening the podcast, and they think that they need some help, they need some tips, some advice from you? How they can find your company? How can you help them? How the process work?
Yeah. Well, they can go to engagebygo.com. So that is the tool that we are working on, the community engagement tool that we've been pouring a lot of our energy into. They can check it out. We're on Instagram, all that kind of stuff, but definitely check out the engagebygo.com. That'll be my number one suggestion.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.